Hi, welcome to the Linux channel. So I got an interesting question and YouTube comments. I do, of course, get sometimes in mail and things like that. But this is quite interesting, which is when I thought, let me demonstrate something so that you can get a big picture on what a kernel module is. See, the comment is, he asks, do kernel modules have to be loaded within the kernel or they can be loaded externally? Say you are running a microkernel or exokernel and want to load a module, does that module have to run within kernel? So which is why this something I can vaguely answer because it's not so easy to answer in just comment. But I thought let me shoot an episode on what a kernel module is and what actually constitutes a general kernel module vaguely called versus loadable kernel modules. Okay. See, I highly recommend if you are a beginner to read the LDD book, Linux Device Drivers book, LDD 3 versions to be precise. Unfortunately, what you will miss in that is the book is already quite old, and any examples if they have given, just don't blindly try to expect these examples to be working in your kernel as well. Some may work, some may not work. Okay, so be open-minded about it, that try to get an overall picture. Some examples may not work because the current kernel must have been modified. Some APIs what they have done in the the book may no longer work. You need to port, you need to modify and things, and the same thing applies. I do get several times some viewer who tries my sample code in Linux channel website, and then they complain that it is not working and stuff like that. So these things are quite common. Every time you try some example which is quite few months old or few years old, there is a tendency that the kernel must have got some updates and no longer the same code exactly works. So okay, so I recommend you can read the Linux device drivers book. Let's just take for instance this is the entire PDF. We have it here or here, so you can see there. Of course you can refer this. It's just not about device drivers per se, as the name says. It kind of gives an overview of the kernel data structures, the kernel architecture and stuff. But having said, this is just not alone is sufficient. As I mentioned, always books are fine, but it is no match for a real stuff like going through the kernel code. Okay, the code walk of real kernel code, like I do in some episodes. Okay. So if you're a beginner, perhaps you can read this. Of course, some do ask me what other books you suggest and all. Of course, I can suggest maybe Linux internals and stuff. But having said, see, even after you read all these things, even after you start practicing, it's going to take around a couple of years for you to get some sort of picture if you are trying on your own. Okay, it is not an easy journey, and it is not something really easy for a complete beginner. Okay, he is just not done any serious programming, and I do get queries that someone wants to become a some kernel device driver developer. I just passed out of college and something I'm thinking to get into this domain or some embedded development. It's not the case actually. Okay, it takes some time. If you are exploring yourself, perhaps maybe 2 years or maybe more actually. Okay, it depends on your skill level, and it depends on your amount of exposure you get as you do stuff by yourself. Okay, it's just not about you copy some code and do some modification. It's not that I'm saying from scratch you should able to have the ability to write your code. Something like that to come, it takes a long time, and it's I'm saying not some some few examples here and there. I'm saying some serious useful code, something like that. Okay, so in the book, in the introduction, kind of they define a kernel module. Okay, I'm not sure which place exactly, but kind of they describe what constitutes this thing, the big picture of the drivers, and what constitutes a as you see, a role of the driver, and somewhere they may discuss about splitting the kernel. This is about the kernel architecture. and then loadable modules and so and so stuff, and this is the kernel architecture of a kernel like Linux, which is a monolithic kernel. Okay, so this is sort of applicable for any sort of monolithic kernel, even like FreeBSD or something like that. Okay, of course things do change, but it's fine. You could take this as a blueprint, and this is going to match for most of the monolithic kernels, but not necessary a kernel like Windows or something like that, which is not strictly a monolithic. Okay, so this is what it is. Below that, you should find version numbering, license terms. Yeah, that's about it. That is your first chapter, and the second chapter is about running modules. Okay, see, I'm giving this preview. I can straight go to my demonstration, but I'm not a person who likes without giving a proper context. Okay, that's what it differs me. I'm not a trainer here. I'm a guy who works in the industry, who works in real projects with various clients, mostly from abroad. Okay, so I'm giving a context. The second chapter, you can see there they are talking about modules specifically. They will vaguely tell that what constitutes a module, and you can see there they have given a sample kernel module with this hello world example. So you can see there it's a simple sample kernel module. Let me increase the size. Let me zoom in so that it can show properly in the video. See, you can see there it's a very simple kernel module. You have this module init, module exit, and you have it there is an hello world, and there is this goodbye acknowledge. So when you do insmod, when you compile this, of course, when you compile and do an insmod, this is going to get printed the moment it is getting inserted, which means the module init will be called. It's going to print hello world in the log messages, of course. And when you do rmmod, or you remove the module, it is going to print that goodbye message as they displayed here. See, please note, this is a pluggable kernel module in a vaguely defined term. See, what we call any software code, any user space or any application, you divide the application into various modules, and each modules will contain several APIs and variables and stuff like that. If you are doing the Java applications, if you are doing any C++ or OOPS application, you are very well aware. See, each time you will have a class definition. The class definition will have member variables and various private and public APIs and stuff. So all these things constitute a class, and you will have other outer includes, which is going to include these classes, and they are going to instantiate. Okay, so that's what we call as object. So object is an instance of a class. Same thing happens in C. There is nothing, it is different. In C, you would have the data structure, and you have the structs, and you will instantiate this struct. Okay, which is as a systems developer, I don't see any difference between any object oriented code or traditional programming like C. Okay, so I see both are almost the same. Okay, so which is why these things are vaguely can be called as modules. Like I say, any large code is split into many modules. Some of these modules are in the same address space, some of these modules are in different address space, and we interconnect them with IPC. Sometimes it can be a different process, sometimes these can be split in number of threads, and sometimes it cannot be something like that. It's just it's a vaguely defined term. Okay, so anytime you have this whole bunch of a module consists of different data structures and APIs, and it kind of does a specific job, so we call it as a module. Okay, so same way you have this first chapter, you can see there you have various kernel subsystems. See this picture, the kernel architecture. If you have a look over here, you can see that this is what it is, and you can get some similar picture when you Google also. It's not that LTD book alone. Okay, so if you see Linux kernel architecture, this is again an issue with the beginners. What they do is, so they just go with one book or some reference, and they don't see the big picture of what is the overall idea about it. Okay, so that's what I encourage, rather than just blindly going with one source. you need to have an open mind. Okay, it same concept, same phenomena, it depends on a mentor or anyone how they explain it. Okay, so I have my own way of doing things versus somebody else may do in a different way. Okay, so you can see there, okay, each has their own architecture picture. Overall it conveys an idea that the kernel has all these subsystems. So vaguely we can call these large subsystems as modules, and sometimes even these modules or subsystems can contain many internal modules. See, the module is more like a bunch of code which contains smaller subsets of individual components which does something specific. Okay, we can just take any real world example. See, you can see this pen, and if I open a cap, it has various other parts inside. If I open this, I can pull it out, it's refill. Okay, you can see there. So this is one module. This is this module goes inside here, and when you screw this bottom, the whole pen is ready, but you just add this protective cover so that you can't keep it in your pocket and it is going to stain with the pen ink. Okay, so it's like that. So same way, when you do a code, you have a module contains many APIs, data structures, and bunch of any variables, some maybe global variables, and so entire thing, it is doing a specific job. So this should not be confused with this kernel module what they have given. This is a loadable kernel module. Okay, the thing is, in runtime, when the kernel is booted, you can load this module. Okay, it's a difference between internal SATA hard disk versus some external drive, something like this. Okay, so this is what, see, this is an external hard drive. You can see there, this is an external, this is not a power bank, this is an external hard drive. You can see that this can be added to the system in runtime. Okay, it is hot swappable. I can just plug it in when the system is booted. I can even remove it. Of course you need to unmount and do things so that it is safely can be removed and things, but I'm saying generally you can still do that. Of course you may have any corruption you have not unmounted when it is writing on the disk and stuff like that, but anyway, you can see the difference. So this is what can be called as a module, but if you open this and take the hard drive, it's like it has to be plugged in as internal SATA drive. Okay, so which is why I'm saying what they refer here as a module is a pluggable module, okay, of a kernel, because kernel has such feature that you can write some extra code and then you can plug it in. So you can see there you have this hello world and goodbye and stuff like that. So each thing will get triggered when you do any operation. It just does that. So same thing even we do if you have a Windows system. If you insert any of this or any USB flash drives, the moment you insert, it is going to show some notification in the taskbar, and if you pull it out, it will again show some notification. So same thing it is. So we are just telling what can be added in the exit operation. So any uninitialization or something like that, you can add whichever is there in the exit or this module exit API. Okay, module insert, same thing, whichever initialization you need to do, you can just add it in that, but not to be confused as generally what a module is. Module can be anything, like I said. So you can see there, if you see these each boxes is a module, we generally call this as subsystems because it's a huge module comprising many hundreds of modules within that. So this is what each one is a subsystem. But if you overall see, the whole stuff is working in one address space. This people don't get it. They just see module. Driver programming is about adding kernel modules, and this is where they get confused, which is why I'm saying the viewer comment I may reply later, because this is not a video for his question at all. Okay, but I thought let me just declutter what a kernel module or what is the confusion behind. Okay, so you can see that the whole stuff they put in this whole gray area is one address space. So let me show something which I can demonstrate. See, I have this huge jar of water. Hope you can see there, right? So I have this jar of water. What I do is I just put some ink so that I can show better in the camera, otherwise it's going to look transparent and you can't much make out. So let me grab some fountain pen ink and put it inside. Yep, so you can see there it's now in some sort of blue-black color, which is the color of this ink. So let me stir it a bit. Okay, see, you can see there now it is mixing in this water, right? So you can see there. Okay, so what is the thing is, this liquid, let's take for instance, this is your kernel's address space. Okay, the address space is something which many don't understand. In fact, if I take sessions, trust me, I may be taking around 4 to 6 hours or something of comprising multiple sessions, so that they can understand what an address space is first. Okay, let's ignore what this module and all this bullshit. If you don't understand what an address space, what's the point of learning any programming? Okay, let it be kernel space or user space applications. Okay, you need to understand what an address space is. So this is what represents an address space. So what happens is, if you do some code corruption, so let me just add some extra water because this is too dark. I'm going to do some couple of things so that you can have a look in the camera. So let me just add some more water so that it is not too dark. Yes, now it has lot of water. Can see there it has lot more water. So we consider this is your address space. So anytime you do any goof up, so you have done some pointer mistakes or anything wrong accessing of any pointers and goof ups like that, you get segmentation fault and the code will crash if it is in the user space. But if you do that in the kernel space, the whole kernel will crash. So this is what is this address space. So whatever goof ups you do in this address space is going to affect in this address space. But if you do it in user space, it is working in a complete different address space, not related to kernel space, which is why if you do any goof ups in the user space, you are going to get some segmentation fault, and Linux kernel can take care of that exception and kick out that process and kill that process eventually. So what happens is, it can do a cleanup operation. So this jar of liquid is your address space. So what we do is, we have first an address space where we can store some information which we can think like adding modules to this, which is what is your actual code inside your RAM is. Okay, so this is your memory. Okay, which is the illusionary part. RAM is the physical part. So when I say memory, when anyone says memory, see, this can be half mapped on a CPU registers or CPU cache and stuff like that. So that's what a memory is. It's a illusionary stuff. It's the software aspect versus the hardware aspect is the registers in a CPU cache, and then the RAM. Okay, but you can think. So this is what is the kernel address space. Okay, any mistake you do in kernel, it is going to crash the kernel. So now let's add some modules. So exactly what a module could be. Okay, let me give some sort of a visualization. So let's think I have this huge